Hey YouTubers. Well, I've just purchased my third Honda Ridgeline. I had a 2012, a 2018, and now I've got this 2025. And so I have a little experience with this vehicle, and I've learned some accessories that I absolutely must have over the past two Ridgelines. And so I've ordered those for my new one, and they're starting to roll in. And today I got some WeatherTech floor mats. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to show you how to install WeatherTech floor mats. It's not rocket science. But I do want to talk briefly about why I chose WeatherTech. Now, I had some 3D spider mats in my Audi years ago, and I didn't love them. And I got WeatherTech in the first Honda Ridgeline that I got, the 2012, and I liked them fine. My biggest complaint about them is that the plastic that they're made out of, when it's sort of dry, like in the wintertime, they can get real staticky. And sometimes I'd be driving down the interstate and I could feel the hair on my legs standing on end because of the plastic that WeatherTech made their mats out of. And the other thing is, when you go to pull them out of the truck, to lift them up off the carpet, and because of that static charge, a lot of grass and leaves and things that were on top of the mat would leap up onto the bottom side of the dash. So I decided I was not going to do WeatherTech again. So my second Ridgeline, I did the factory mats. And I like the material that they're made out of, but they just don't have good enough coverage, and they didn't lay flat like the WeatherTechs did. So after swearing I'd never have WeatherTechs again, here I am. Now I know there are cheaper ones out there. Some are pretty good, some are just cheaper. The WeatherTechs are expensive, but the ones I had in the first truck lasted 8 years and still look great. So I'm back to the WeatherTechs. Another thing on the WeatherTechs is they actually put the holes in the mats to work with the factory lockdown points. A lot of the cheaper mats you see out there, they just have a little hump here and it just lays down over the factory lockdown tab. And I much prefer these because I know when I put them in place and twist that lock, they're not going anywhere. So it's a case of sometimes you get what you pay for. And in my opinion, it's worth paying a little extra for the WeatherTechs. Like I say, I hope they change the material and they're not as staticky, and I may peel off their branding after I get them in the truck. I don't love seeing a big shiny brand name every time you open the door, so we'll see how I feel about that. The other thing is, I got the front and rear splash guards. Now, this is our 7th Honda that we bought new, and I've put the factory splash guards on every one of them. I know, again, there are cheaper alternatives out there, but I know these will fit well, and the plastic that they're made out of will still look great 8 years down the road. They won't turn gray or get streaky or anything like that. And I've looked, and some of the Husky splash guards and the WeatherTech splash guards, although they give more protection, they hang down lower than I would prefer. So for me, when it comes to splash guards, I like the OEM ones. So I'm going to pop these in the truck real quick off camera, and then I'll walk you through the install on the front and rear splash guards. Okay, so here's our front splash guards. And the part number, I'm going to hold up here where you can get a good look at that. I believe that same part number is good for any 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 model. But please double check that. And what you're going to get is 2 splash guards, a left and a right, and a bag with 4 self-tapping screws. There's no instructions, but I'm going to give you a link down below the video that shows you where you can get a PDF that gives you step-by-step instructions for installing these. Okay, we're going to install the splash guard here on the front, and you're going to need 2 tools. You'll need something to poke a small hole in these little plastic grommets here, and you'll need a Phillips screwdriver, and this is where a short screwdriver really comes in handy. Now, there's 2 screws already installed here. This one we're going to leave alone, but the one on the inside, we're going to go ahead and remove that. And this one has a slightly smaller head on it than the new screws, so keep them separate. Now, there's a little dimple here in the center of this plastic piece, and we're just going to get up here and poke a little hole right in the middle of that. You don't have to make it very big, just enough to get the screw started. There we go. You can even use a push pin for that. Now we're going to go ahead and put the splash guard on and just line it up good where it's good and tight to the body. And the screw that we took out, we're going to put that one in first. And just start it by hand and kind of leave it loose. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to get one of our new screws installed here into that little hole we made earlier. And just push inward on the screw. I like to do it by hand, there we go, until it kind of bites and starts threading in. We're going to do the same thing on this one. Just, you'll kind of feel that little dimple in there, and you'll feel where you made a hole, and just push. I may need a screwdriver for this one. Nope, there it goes, there it goes. All right, now, while holding the splash guard up tight to the body, I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all 3 screws. Now, they do not need to be super tight, just snug. You don't want to strip out those little plastic grommets. And I'm just going to snug them up a little bit more. Okay, that's it. You've probably saved yourself, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks over what the dealer would have charged. All right, let's get on to the rears. Okay, now we're going to install the rear splash guards. And here's the part number for the rear. And again, I believe this works for all 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. But please double check. I don't want you to order the wrong part. So we got a little bit more hardware in with this one. So there's our splash guards. There's the passenger side. And here's the driver's side. And tucked into there with a little piece of tape is our hardware. So in here, you're going to find 2 screws and 2 metal clips for each side. Okay, so I installed the splash guard on the other side off camera to get a feel for it, and I'm glad I did because the instructions that come with it are correct, but I found a little bit different way of doing things I think works out a little bit easier. So let me walk you through this. Now, we don't need to poke any holes, but we still need a short screwdriver. As a matter of fact, getting a screw in right back here is pretty tough, even with this short screwdriver. So if you happen to have one of these little ratchet screwdrivers, it's going to make your life a lot easier because you know, I need an inch of space to work this. If you don't have one of these, consider buying one. It's a lifesaver sometimes. So if you got one of those, go grab it. You're going to need it. I also found that I needed a pair of needle nose pliers, which was not mentioned in the instructions. All right, now, just like before, we're going to take 2 screws out. And the instructions aren't very clear on which ones, but we're going to take out the bottom one and the top one. We leave the middle one alone. So let's get those out of there. Okay, we got those out of the way. Now, our 2 little metal spring clips. These things are kind of pried open, and when you fit them where you're supposed to put them, they're loose and wobble around. So here's where the needle nose pliers come in handy. Now, one of those clips goes on our splash guard, and it should go on this way with the big hole facing downward and the smaller hole on the top. But as you can see, that just falls right off of there. So what we're going to do is we're going to give that a little squeeze with some needle nose pliers, kind of tighten it up a little bit so that when we put it in place, it'll stay there. Okay, good snug fit. One down, one to go. The other one, and I'll try to get you, I'll move the camera and get you a little bit better view, goes inside here on the fender. So let me move that camera for you. Okay, so our other metal clip goes right here. And again, if you just install it, it's just going to drop right out of place. Go ahead and give that a squeeze and get that where it's a little snugger. And this is probably the second part of the whole install, is getting this little clip into place. So be patient here. It may take you a moment or two. Again, with these little clips, the big hole goes towards where the screw goes. So we're going to slide this through the little slot here and push it up where the hole here lines up with the round hole above the slot. And if you're lucky and you got it just right, you can get it in there and it'll stay in place. All right, here's that little metal tab we put on the splash guard, and this hole is there waiting for it. What we've got to do is we've got to get this piece above this piece. And so we've got to kind of work that up in there like that. And we're going to pull this tab rearward towards the back of the truck until we see that hole line up with the metal clip we put in there. And this screw came with the splash guard, one of the big ones, and we get that started in there. Now once you understand how all this goes together, it's simple to do, but the instructions aren't super helpful. And like I say, they say to put this one in last. I found it to be easier to do this one first. So now that we've got that in there, we're going to go around and do the other three. Okay, the hard part is done. Now then, the two screws that we took out earlier, we're going to put back loosely. Remember, we got one that goes here, and one that goes up here at the top. There we go, and these two are pretty easy to do with a short screwdriver. I'm not going to tighten them up, I'm just going to get them where they hold the splash guard in place a little better. The last one goes through the splash guard and into the metal clip we installed here earlier. So we're just going to have to feel around until we find where that goes. And you can reach your hand around the back side and it can kind of help steady this. There we go. That's getting started now. Now, here's where this little short screwdriver really comes in handy. I can reach that back in there. And remember, none of this needs to be super tight. Just snug it up a little bit. You don't want to break anything. That's plenty. And put this one back in. Again, these are threading into plastic, the ones we took out, so don't tighten them too much. That's good. And the one that's underneath here, I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it up. That's it, we're done. That's why I like the Honda splash guards. They don't draw a lot of attention to themselves, they just sort of blend in. And like I say, on all my previous Hondas, they look just as good 8 years later as they did the day I installed them. I hope you find this helpful. Please like and subscribe if you did. Thanks.